Hello, everybody! It's everyone's favorite little Mexican, Carlos, or I, Carlos, a dude with attitude, and welcome to my review of Death Stranding. So I'm sort of gonna put this review into three main sections, which to me are the three kind of main core sections of a game that can make a great game, and that is the story, the gameplay, and the atmosphere. And by atmosphere, I sort of mean like the music, audio design, graphics, and setting. So it's basically just like the way the game looks and the way the game feels, that sort of stuff. So with that said, let's kind of just get into the atmosphere. And we'll start off with the graphics. And so as you can see, the game looks amazing. The game, it looks like like a AAA game should look like. And so they really did a great job with the graphics. It's probably one of the, best looking games on the PS4. And so, everything really looks great. All like the terrain and the actual, rocks and stuff, the character animations and the way their faces look. All the textures in this game look really good. The enemies look really good. As you can see in the gameplay, everything looks great. There's not much really to talk about with the graphics. So I'm gonna quickly talk about the performance in this game a little bit. And first off, I've never had a single crash in this game. I've never really experienced any problems with frames and frame drops. I played this game on a PS4 Pro and it runs perfectly. So with performance, I have no issues at all. It runs the way I believe it was intended to run. So yeah, with that all said, let's kind of move on a little bit to like the setting, the way the world looks. A lot of the different terrains that you'll see are stuff like barren land, like mountains and some flat areas, some rocky areas. You have some snowy mountains. You have, different places sort of like that. That's mainly all the places you have. And, in this world as well, you have some man-made structures, which all kind of look a little bit futuristic. The game at times can kind of look a little bit creepy. The game can look very beautiful and bright and colorful. And, you kind of have that contrast sometimes in the game, depending on different situations and different, times and stuff like that. Whether it's raining or whether it's sunny out, stuff like that. The setting in this game is great. It feels like a great world to be in. It feels almost like a different planet at times, So it's basically just like a very barren, very just natural feeling sort of areas, and it looks very nice and it's very creative and it looks very beautiful. And so with that all kind of said, let's go on to a little bit of the audio side of stuff with the atmosphere. And so with the basic audio design, this game does it really well. This game has a lot of creative sounds with different high-tech beeps and different gadgets, like futuristic kind of stuff. You have the vehicle sounds, which sound also very futuristic, kind of with that tone. You have the walking, which sounds very nice, and all like the different movements. When you're running, sometimes you can kind of hear the air a little bit. You kind of feel that impact. All the enemy sounds, the way all the audio pretty much is designed, it's just it's very good and kind of in line with the graphics sort of, where it's all very very good. And lastly, with the atmosphere, let's kind of talk about the music. And the music in this game is fucking phenomenal. You have the original score in this game, which is just, a lot of it is really good. You have this very intense music sometimes that can be very good when the game is intense and when you're in different situations. And then a lot of time, you'll also have, very ambient sounding music, very just nice and calming and just beautiful sounding, melodies. And so the music in this game is done very well, and the original score just sounds amazing, and yeah, it just sounds really nice. It can be beautiful at times, and it can be very harsh and very intense and very creepy sounding as well at other times. And then lastly, with kind of the music is, of course, the actual, the licensed music by various different artists, and all licensed music in this game I fucking love. It all sounds very nice. It fits kind of the tone of the game, and sometimes you'll have music playing when you're in the main mission, and it just kind of play as you walk and whatever you're doing. And it's just very nice to kind of be able to sometimes listen to these nice songs while you're just walking and you're just in this world. It really helps out with the atmosphere and the feel of the game. And the music really suits this game and really goes well with it, I would say. This game has some of the best licensed music in almost any game I've ever played. I don't know what else I can say about it. It's really good. Overall, the music is just phenomenal in this game. And so, in summary, the atmosphere in this game, pretty much every part of it is just really good. You really enjoy being in this world, and it's very immersive. And so, the atmosphere is amazing. So, with that all said about the atmosphere, let's move on now to the gameplay. So if you didn't already know, in Death Stranding, you play as a delivery man. So the main gameplay is pretty much just traversing across different types of terrain to deliver your packages. Some people kind of like to call Death Stranding a walking simulator. And while that isn't really wrong, because you can't really say the game isn't a walking simulator, because that's the main thing you do, the thing about that is there's a lot more to it, to where you actually have to think about what you're doing sometimes and the way you're going to be planning out your route that you actually will deliver these packages on. And so, like I said, the main gameplay is delivering your packages, delivering your cargo, and completing your orders, which assign you the cargo. And so the main fun thing about the game is basically just having to deal with different obstacles along your path. And so it's never really just a straight from point A to point B. It's very rarely that. It's more always, you have different obstacles, whether that is difficult terrain, which you can use different tools to kind of get past and to be able to complete your delivery. Or another obstacle could be enemies that are in your way that you may need to either stealth around or maybe use different tools to take them down. So it can be really fun having to use different tools and gadgets for different situations. And on top of that, you're also going to have to manage what things you're carrying, like the packages that you want to be delivering, as well as the tools or gadgets to help you on your journey to deliver them. One thing I want to touch on really quickly is the way the actual walking and like the running feels. You have a lot of momentum when you run, and it can be really hard to stop yourself sometimes. And as well as turning, sometimes you might have to hold down one of the triggers or hold down both triggers to kind of help if you're maybe about to fall over or something like that. And of course, if you fall over, you drop all your packages, you're going to have to pick them all up. And also, sometimes you'll damage them depending on if you're falling down a mountain or if you're falling into a river or something like that. So like I just said about having to use different tools and stuff to help you get past difficult terrain and stuff like that, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the different tools that you actually will have. And so you have different things at your disposal, like a terrain scanner, which can help you determine whether the ground is stable to walk on or not. It can also detect certain enemies too. Also, you have ladders to help you climb up terrain. You have climbing anchors to help you climb down terrain. You also have these carriers, which you can attach yourself, which can help you carry extra cargo, but it makes you a little bit less mobile. You'll also have different things you can equip, like different boots, and there's also different sort of like exoskeleton sort of things. You can attach them to your legs, and they kind of can help you do different things, like maybe run faster, or carry more cargo, or help you traverse difficult terrain a little bit easier. And also you have this thing called a PCC, which basically lets you build different structures, like bridges, generators for different things that might need power, watchtowers, which you can use to kind of look and survey the area with, and many other different things. And you kind of unlock this equipment as you go through the game. And that progression can be very fun because it feels like you're unlocking something new every time. And that can be very interesting because you're going to want to always try out your new things. And so I basically already talked about most of the major stuff you have, different tools and gadgets that you have. And so the last couple of things I haven't talked about are vehicles, which of course help you get to your destination faster. But the thing about those is that they don't really work that well on rough terrain. On top of that, also with the vehicle driving mechanics, is that they are a little bit clunky. They aren't the best. They're all right. They get the job done, but it's a small little nitpick. They just aren't that great. But and on top of that, you also have a large array of different, unique, and creative weapons that you can use to take down enemies. And speaking of that, that's what we talk about right now. We're going to move on and talk about a little bit more of the combat in this game. First off, with the combat, I'm going to talk about the enemies. And so there are two main types of enemies: the human enemies and the BTs, right? First off, I'm going to talk about the human enemies. And so the human enemies in this game are known as mules. And pretty much they're just other kind of delivery people, other porters, and they're pretty much just trying to steal your cargo. And you'll run into them. They'll have camps, and they can be very hard to avoid sometimes. And so you usually run into them, and you can take them out a couple different ways. You can just stealth around them, just stealth through their camps pretty much, if you are quiet enough. Another thing you can always do is just go up to them and just fucking just run away from them. You can probably run away from them decently. But if they somehow catch up to you, you will always be able to go fist to fist with them and do some melee combat. Sometimes it can be very intense. And, the melee combat in this game, I'd say, is pretty good. You don't use it a whole lot because usually you use other things. There are other types of weapons you can use that are ranged against the mules. But, sometimes, especially early game, you're going to use hand-to-hand combat. And a lot of the time that can be really fun. You have some kicks, you can use some punches. You can also use one of your packages to hit at them. Another thing about the mules is that they're always carrying cargo because they're delivery men, right? Pretty much just like evil delivery men, of course. And so you can always pick up the cargo that they have on them. And sometimes you can deliver it. Sometimes it's a different gadget that you can use, different tool. And so you can take them out non-lethally, using just punching them, knocking them out, or just using different weapons that there are that are non-lethal. And then the major type enemies, the ones you're going to face a lot of times, are the BTs. And the main way you're going to encounter a BT is pretty much whenever it starts to rain, they'll all come out. And the only way you can pretty much get around them, get through them, is that you have to stealth your way through them so that they don't catch you. And while you're stealthing, you can always use different weapons to take them out. There are grenades you can use, and there's other different ranged weapons. Pretty much almost every ranged weapon works with the BTs. And so that usually would make the game pretty easy. The only thing about that is that you only have a limited amount of ammunition for your weapons. So that means that you're going to have to sometimes use them wisely. And that kind of also goes into the factor of how much cargo you can carry, You want to make sure you're carrying enough cargo to where you're prepared for certain situations if you run into human enemies or the BTs. But you also want to be carrying enough cargo. And so with the BTs, your main thing you want to do is just, stealth through them. And they're mainly just an obstacle that's in your way. And so you don't want to rush through them because if they catch you, then you're going to be fighting a boss. And so, of course, talking about that, bosses, that's where the problems in the combat kind of start coming in. The bosses in this game are very easy. The difficulty in this game is very easy. I'm pretty sure I played on normal, and it was very, very easy. And so that can be somewhat of a problem, as well as when you combine it with, like, the gun gameplay in this game. The gun gameplay feels very, like, too fluid or like too responsive. It just feels like you're just using like a water gun sometimes, and it's not very impactful like the bullets. And there's a reason for that. It's like a futuristic gun. You use rubber rounds, but at the same time, it doesn't matter if it's futuristic or if it's fun. You know what I mean? The gun gameplay overall, it's passable. At least it feels very different from other games. It just doesn't feel too great, but the gun gameplay isn't too big in here. You're mainly just going to be trying to get past enemies and try to not waste much time, But with the boss fights, going back to that, a lot of them, they're pretty easy. At first, when you're early game, everything is scary. The BTs are scary, the bosses are scary, you're terrified. Then once you kind of get towards mid-game to late game, you really just, the BTs aren't really scary that much because you already have a lot of weapons at your disposal that you've unlocked. And all the same thing with the bosses. You have a lot of weapons to take them down, and they are really easy to fight anyways. But the main thing that makes the combat somewhat challenging is your cargo. You're always going to want to take care of your cargo. You want to be, you want to get away from these enemies as fast as you can. You don't want to waste your time with them, And a lot of time when you're fighting bosses, you'll have like this like tar on the ground that's super hard to walk through. So that can be sometimes kind of stressful when you're walking super slowly and you don't want to get knocked down and lose all your cargo or something like that. And so the best thing about all these enemies is that it gets very creepy. The aesthetics, like I said, in the atmosphere portion, the aesthetics are amazing. It's very, very creepy when you're fighting a boss, and when the black tar comes and it's just like running around and doing all this crazy stuff. But yeah, that's the main thing about the combat. The bosses are not that hard. The BTs get pretty easy late game. But the thing about it is the combat isn't really a big thing in this game. The main thing you're focused about is just your cargo, and it's kind of challenging on that aspect. You don't want to lose your cargo. And so, to me at least, it's still fun. The combat is passable. It isn't great, but it's passable. It gets the job done, and it's not a big thing in this game. It doesn't really ever hurt the experience for me. I feel like everything's just passable enough, and at least the ideas in here are pretty innovative, a lot of them, with the combat. And so, yeah, like I said earlier, there's a large arsenal of weapons. There's a lot of cool variation of weapons, and a bunch of them are futuristic, and then you got some really just different cool ideas. But yeah, you got some cool looking bosses, but usually they aren't too hard. They aren't too scary. There's not a lot of times you're scared. Late game, early game you are by some of the enemies, but late game there's a few things. Yeah, with combat, like I said, it's very easy, and that's like that's the main problem that I have with this game. The only problem that I have. Thing about it is it's not a major problem at all. The combat in this game, it's just it's passable. But the thing about it is that it's not a big thing in this game. I kind of give the game a little bit of slack for that because it doesn't really hurt the experience at all, at least for me. And so now that I've kind of talked a lot about the main gameplay, I'm going to kind of talk about a couple little things, and I'm going to wrap up the gameplay section and all that. So I'm first going to kind of just talk about this one aspect of the game that I think is really cool, and that's this online single player type thing going on. I know a couple games have done this before, like Dark Souls, for instance. Like you can see the signs that other people place and stuff in your single player game. It's kind of like that, but it's a little bit extra. So you have different structures you can build and stuff like that, that you can place. But you can also have other players' structures that they have built in your game. And so that can be very cool, seeing someone else's, bridge or ladder, and you can use it to help you. And I just think it's a really cool feature to have in here. And, well, yeah, I don't know, there's not much else to talk about with that. But yeah. And so, recapping a lot of stuff with the gameplay is that I think it is really fun a lot of the time. The gameplay is at its best when you're using a bunch of different gadgets and different structures and tools to get past different obstacles in your way. It can be so much fun going through a certain path one time and then going back the second time and it being easier, a bridge, or maybe you have a ladder or a climbing anchor somewhere, stuff like that. And so that can be really fun and rewarding because your progress literally is making the game easier for you to play. And so that is something that is really fun in this game, as well as, like I've said a little bit, the gameplay and pretty much everything in this game is very innovative. I've never known a game where it is this long and this in-depth with such a unique gameplay idea, just delivering packages, walking from point A to point B. And that basic concept is kind of just made into a game, and it works, and I love it because it's so creative. It's so different. It's something that I've never, played in another game, and it's just fun, man. It's really fun. The only problem with that, I feel like, is the game isn't really for everybody, I feel like if you're really into action-oriented games or games where there's always something going on, you don't really like a slower-paced game and a slower-paced story, then this game really is probably not for you, You probably won't enjoy it. But if you can enjoy a slower-paced gameplay, then, the gameplay you might really enjoy, like I did. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the main aspects of the gameplay in this game. And so now I'm going to move on to my favorite part of Death Stranding, and that is the story. The story in Death Stranding takes place in a sort of post-apocalyptic America, Something has gone down here. Some crazy shit is happening. The rain makes people age up. There are invisible, supernatural like creatures running around. Humanity looks like it's nothing but a couple cities here and there, and there is a baby strapped to a man's chest, right? So a lot of this shit is fucking crazy. I love it though. It's so creative, it's so unique. And so America is a shadow of its former self. It's just remnants, it's cities. That's all that's left. And you play as Sam Porter Bridges, who is a man with a tragic past where you don't know exactly what he's seen, but you know that he's seen some shit. He has some thick skin. He doesn't really talk about himself too much. He's very just closed in kind of person. And so in the story of this game, the main thing that you're doing is you are reconnecting America through this thing called the chiral network, which is pretty much just a high-tech internet, you know what I mean? So the only person that can do it is Sam's, because he is a delivery man. And that is not the only reason why, but I don't want to get into it because of spoilers and stuff like that. And so he has to go from one facility to another, walking through this dangerous America where there's different human enemies who are trying to steal his cargo. There's the supernatural beings that are trying to fucking, kill him or some shit. And then there is the terrain, which is not very kind and can be very tricky to get around. And so it is his job to reconnect America using the chiral network. Throughout this, he meets a bunch of different characters, a lot of really interesting people, and all these characters have their own subplots that all kind of connect towards the main story. And through, this journey that Sam goes on, he has great character progression. I don't want to talk about it too much. I don't want to spoil anything, but he goes through a lot of stuff, and overall, it's very satisfying to see how he is at the beginning of the game versus how at the end. And yeah, and so the story in this game is just a very beautiful story. It has themes of love, peace, and just connecting people. Very inspiring to see in this post-apocalyptic America, people coming together and working together to reconnect each other. The story in this is just, there's so many different things that are going on. The villain of this story is very interesting. It's a very, I don't want to say too much, but it's a very good villain. There's some really just great characters in here, and all the characters that are surrounding Sam, are very interesting. They all have their own backstories. They all have different character arcs throughout the story. The story is, great. There's so many cool different things. It's so innovative with the universe that is created in this game. There's so many different creative concepts of, like purgatory and like the way the rain is and like the BTs and stuff like that. And so overall, this is going to be kind of short, but I don't want to spoil anything because you have to see this story for yourself. It is amazing. The characters in here are just so great. The main plot is very interesting. It's always very intriguing. There's a lot of mysteries going on about the world and the way it is and why it is, And as you play through the game, you unravel these mysteries and you uncover these secrets that are here. And there's a lot of different things that unfold through the course of the story, and it's very interesting. It feels like there's something always going on, And the themes in here are just inspiring. There's a lot of like confusing stuff here too at first, but once you finish the game and once you see the epilogue and everything, you will pretty much understand almost everything that's here. And so yeah, one last thing I kind of want to talk about involving the story is there has been like certain rumors and stuff about a sequel, and my thoughts on that are, at the end of this game, there is still room for a sequel, but if they never made another sequel, and if Kojima just did some other thing, then this game would stand alone perfectly. The ending is amazing, so satisfying. It's a long game. It's like, what is it, like 48 hours, I think it was, somewhere around there. But it was amazing. I enjoyed it so much. The story is so memorable to me. And I just love the themes, just like love and peace and just connecting and just like this just feel good, you know what I mean? And so yeah, that's pretty much everything with the story. And so that's basically, every major thing about this game. And so just for recap, the atmosphere in this game is amazing, the looks of this game, the game is beautiful, the game has great graphics, has very creative environments. The audio is amazing, the music is top notch, the gameplay is very fun, very satisfying. It isn't for everybody. If it's a slower paced game, the story is slower paced as well. And so if you aren't into slower games and you like something that's a lot more faster paced, with action stuff, like I said earlier, then this game is really not for you. And I can't really recommend it for you. And then the story is just incredible. It's an amazing story. It is very emotional, and it's very satisfying, And it's something that I will always remember. This is one of my favorite stories in the video game. It is amazing. One thing I didn't talk about actually was the performances of all the actors. I didn't even think about it because they're just so good. You forget that they're acting. They are the characters. You know what I mean? And so yeah. Now I'm going to be rating the game. And so this is a very hard game to rate because I really like it, but I don't know if I should be critical of it or not. But even when I'm trying to be critical, all the criticisms I have are just so small compared to how good the gameplay is and how amazing the story is that, I just have to rate this game a 10 out of 10. This game is amazing. This is a game that I will always remember. I will always look fondly on. It's a fantastic game. I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off for giving it a 10 out of 10, but I don't give a fuck. This game is amazing to me. I love it so much, and I just love the game. What can I say? It's perfect for me, But the thing about it is I gave it a 10 out of 10, but this game is incredibly hard to recommend, I don't think that you should buy it unless you are really sure that you won't get bored if you're playing a slower paced game, But if you really love stories and video games, I think you're going to really enjoy the story. It is incredible. And if you are, if you're ready for some innovative gameplay and you're all right with it being very different and, unlike anything else, probably enjoy the gameplay. But yeah, I would recommend this to a very small minority of people who play video games, But I still think this is an amazing game, and on the PlayStation Store it's $40, the base price, but I see it go on sale for $20 a lot. And so if you can get this for $20, then I'd say, go for it. If you are even just a little bit intrigued, with $20, I feel like you won't really be too disappointed. Even if you aren't a huge fan of this game, you won't be too disappointed with spending your $20 on this game. One thing I want to say really quickly, right, is that apparently there's a lot of rumors that there's going to be a PS5 upgrade with a some sort of story DLC that's going to come out. So I'd say maybe if you aren't 100% sure on this game, maybe wait a little bit. But also, I don't know, maybe the DLC will be able to be purchased by itself individually, but who knows. And yeah, that pretty much is it for this review. Really quickly, I want to say sorry for this not coming out. It took me so long to make this review. It was supposed to come out in, August or September, but it just got kept on getting pushed back by me. And, that's my bad. And on top of that as well, I also want to apologize for not uploading a video since I'm pretty sure, December, the end of December, Christmas. And so hopefully I can get more than one video in 3 months done. This next time, I want to hopefully get some videos done in April, at least a couple. But yeah. Also, this is one of the first videos that I've done that's actually serious, more serious than a lot of my other ones. And so yeah, tell me in the comments below what you think I should improve on for the next time, or any critiques you have, or also what things you think I did good on in this review. Also, if you played the game, tell me why you agree with me, or either you disagree with me, or think my opinion's shit, or think I'm a fucking, story gaming fanboy of Hideo Kojima. I don't know. But yeah. With that all said, thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
Don't be so serious.